Welcome in. Think about the last time you tried to organize just a simple dinner with maybe five of your friends.
Oh boy.
Right. If you're anything like me, it probably involved this completely chaotic group chat,
Dozens of messages.
endless messages, just endless compromises on dietary restrictions, and then a really frustrating debate about which neighborhood to actually meet in.
And then somebody says they don't want to take the subway.
Exactly. And by the time you finally sit down at this overcrowded, usually overpriced restaurant, you're already exhausted.
The fun is kind of drained out of it before you even order a drink.
Exactly. So today we're doing a deep dive into a really radical idea from a startup called InSync Tastes Gatherings, and they want to completely obliterate that friction.
It's a massive ambition.
It is. We're taking you on a custom-tailored journey today. We're going from the mundane chore of scanning a grocery receipt all the way to some of the deepest biological questions about human connection.
We have a really fascinating stack of sources on the table today, too.
We do. We're looking at the startup's actual pitch deck and their internal strategy document.
Along with some heavy academic research on the Space Omen framework, which is all about drinking and dining contexts.
And to top it off, some deeply philosophical essays on the biological and cultural nature of loneliness and taste.
It's a lot of ground to cover. It starts as a tech pitch about a gig economy app, but it rapidly evolves into this radical solution for the human condition.
It really does. Okay, let's unpack this. Where does the core problem actually begin for this company? Why is getting dinner with friends suddenly so difficult?
Well, it begins with a really fundamental economic shift in how we eat. Dining out has just become prohibitively expensive for a lot of people.
Yeah, the prices are wild lately.
They are. The hospitality industry is struggling with food costs, labor shortages, rent.
Commercial rent is out of control.
Exactly. Which means that the simple joy of gathering around a restaurant table is no longer an approachable, everyday thing for most of us,
It's a luxury now.
right? And because of that, we're seeing this massive retreat to the home.
I've definitely noticed that.
The weeknight dinner party, the casual Saturday lunch, Sunday brunch, neighborhood supper clubs, these are all experiencing a huge cultural resurgence. People are really craving that intimate atmosphere.
But they're hitting a wall, right? Because organizing and hosting those gatherings takes an enormous amount of effort.
It's basically a part-time job to host a good dinner party.
And that shift, that specific pain point, is exactly where this pitch identifies a massive new gig economy opportunity.
Yeah, they're looking at this retreat to the home and asking a really interesting question.
Right. They're saying, what if hosting a small dinner or a brunch could become a repeatable micro business?
Because there are people out there who just absolutely love the art of hosting.
Totally. They love cooking, they love setting a beautiful table, curating the perfect jazz playlist, pouring wine for people.
With people who thrive on that kind of hospitality.
Yes. So this platform proposes allowing those passionate hosts to run small, ticketed gatherings in their own homes, or even in community spaces.
It's essentially aiming to do for the dinner party what platforms like Airbnb did for the spare bedroom.
That's the perfect analogy. But to make that work at scale, you need technology that can reliably match the right guests to the right host.
Which brings us to a massive technological hurdle.
The recommendation engines.
Exactly. The current engines we all rely on are completely unequipped for this. I mean, think about the apps we use every day.
The restaurant finders, music streaming, wine rating apps.
Right. They are brilliantly engineered, but they are optimized exclusively for a single user.
Just you.
Just you. They look at what you, as an isolated individual, clicked on yesterday to predict what you will want tomorrow.
But the real world is almost never a single user problem. We don't live in a vacuum.
No, we don't.
When a group of 6 friends or even 6 strangers gather, those single-player algorithms completely fall apart.
They just break down,
They force us into what the pitch calls the negotiation loop.
which goes back to your group chat nightmare from the intro.
Yes. Someone sends a list of 5 restaurants to the chat. One person says they're doing keto, another refuses to go downtown. Someone else thinks the vibe at that one place is way too loud.
And you eventually just average out all those conflicting preferences.
You settle for a compromise. And the funny thing about an average compromise is that it's the one option that fully satisfies absolutely no one.
It's the bland middle ground. What's fascinating here is how this startup flips that model entirely.
Oh, I love this part.
Instead of trying to optimize for individuals and watering things down to an average, their goal is to actively find the shared center.
The place where everyone naturally aligns.
Exactly. They're explicitly building an engine to solve the multi-person matching problem.
But that is incredibly difficult to do because human beings are notoriously terrible at self-reporting what they actually want.
We are awful at it.
I am so glad you brought that up because I was reading through this pitch thinking, how on earth do they know what a group of 6 people actually wants to eat?
Right. Because if you give people a preference quiz, they lie.
They completely lie. They select all these aspirational things.
They check the box for kale salads and quinoa.
Because it sounds sophisticated. But in reality, they eat macaroni and cheese 4 nights a week.
Exactly. We all want to be the person who eats the kale salad.
So how does this platform bypass that fake preference profile?
By relying purely on baseline behavior, they use something they call the taste engine.
The taste engine.
Yeah. The platform doesn't ask you to fill out a survey at all. Instead, it asks you to do one incredibly simple, low-friction thing.
Scan your grocery store receipts into the app.
That's it. Just scan your receipts.
Here's where it gets really interesting because scanning a piece of paper sounds almost, I don't know, too analog for a slick tech startup.
It feels very old school.
But that single habit unlocks a massive 3-layer data foundation. Let's break those layers down. First, you get the taste graph.
Right. By scanning those receipts week after week, the system builds a living, breathing record of what you are actually consuming in your own kitchen.
It's not a hypothetical wish list.
No, it's a raw data feed of your foundational palette. It knows you buy macaroni and cheese, not kale.
And that raw data feeds the second layer, which is the ingredient graph.
This is where the scale starts to happen.
Exactly. Because every scanned receipt shows exactly where items were purchased and for how much. So the platform is dynamically mapping the local food ecosystem.
It learns the fluctuating availability and the price differences of specific ingredients across entire neighborhoods.
It knows that on a Tuesday, the fresh basil at the corner market is $3 cheaper than at the big chain grocery store down the street.
Or which specific local butcher consistently has the best cuts of lamb.
Which leads directly to the third layer, and I think this might be my favorite part of the whole tech stack, the local food ecosystem graph.
It's so clever.
After you scan a receipt, the app prompts you to rate your checkout wait time on a really simple scale from 1 to 10.
Just a quick tap.
Right. So as thousands of users in a city do this every day, the system isn't just learning about food preferences and prices.
It's quietly acting as a real-time traffic map for grocery stores.
Yes. It knows when specific aisles are chaotic. It knows when the checkout lines are wrapping around the building.
And it knows when a store is completely dead and easy to navigate.
So when you combine those 3 graphs, the taste graph, the ingredient graph, and the ecosystem graph, you completely eliminate the friction of being a gig economy host.
It's like having a superpower as a host. Imagine you're hosting a Friday night supper club for 6 people you barely know.
Okay, I'm terrified already.
Right. But the system analyzes the overlapping, real-world tastes of those specific guests based on their receipts.
To suggest a menu that hits their shared center perfectly?
Exactly. Then it gives you a hyper-efficient shopping list. It tells you exactly which local markets to hit to get the best ingredients at the best prices.
And it specifically routes you around long checkout lines using that real-time data.
It turns the hardest, most stressful part of hosting into a seamless guided experience.
Okay, that is undeniably brilliant utility for the host. Knowing what to cook and where to buy it is huge.
It's half the battle.
But having the right ingredients doesn't automatically guarantee a magical dinner party.
Definitely not.
Why is it that you can cook your absolute favorite meal on a high-energy Friday night and it tastes amazing, but if you eat that exact same meal on a quiet, stressful Tuesday, it suddenly feels too heavy and entirely wrong?
The food didn't change at all.
The food didn't change, but the context did. And this brings us to a major philosophical pillar of their pitch.
They argue fiercely against the myth of statal preference.
The idea that our tastes are fixed.
Right. We like to think of our tastes as fixed personality traits, like I am a person who likes spicy food.
But taste is actually constructed in the moment. It's deeply reactive to our environment.
There is a fantastic case study in the research using the daiquiri to illustrate this.
Oh, I loved this part. It really made it click for me. Let's talk about the daiquiri.
The recipe for a daiquiri is basically just rum, citrus, and sweetness. Very simple.
But imagine drinking a classic lime daiquiri made with crisp white rum. It's restrained, it's sharp.
That feels perfect for a quiet, early evening when you're just sitting alone and reflecting.
But now imagine an aged rum daiquiri. full of oak and dark complexity.
That variation fits a slow, nostalgic, late-night conversation by a fire.
And then you have the Hemingway Daiquiri.
Grapefruit, almost no sugar.
It's bitter and disciplined, and that fits a really focused, unsentimental afternoon.
The core mechanics of the drink are the exact same. You, the person drinking it, are the exact same.
But the context dictates which version actually tastes good in that specific moment.
Which is why the second half of this platform is designed to manage the room, not just the menu.
It's not just about the food.
No. Once the taste engine figures out the baseline food through all that grocery data, the platform's gathering engine and synchronization engine take over.
They orchestrate the environment itself,
The lighting, the background music, the pacing of the meal.
the overall sensory load.
Yes, to match the specific real-time context of that group.
They use this wonderful analogy in the deck. They call it creating an atmospheric chord.
An atmospheric chord.
Yeah. If you think about playing the piano, each person walking into a room is contributing a single musical note.
And the platform acts as a digital tuning fork.
Exactly. Its goal is to make sure that when those individual notes come together, the experience is naturally harmonious.
It shouldn't feel engineered or forced or stiff. It should just feel effortlessly right.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the science behind this tuning fork concept is incredibly deep.
It is. To map out that context, the system relies on something called the SPAI framework.
SPAIS.
Right. This is a model used by academic researchers to analyze thousands of hours of consumption behavior.
Let's break that acronym down for everyone because it's fascinating.
SPAI stands for schedule or time, physical setting,
Mm.
activity, interpersonal company, and substance.
So it basically means the when, where, what, how, and with whom of a gathering.
Exactly. And the research shows that these external environmental factors have a massive impact on our sensory experience.
A crowded, loud room with mixed gender company on a Saturday night completely alters how your brain perceives the flavor of a meal.
Compared to, say, a quiet Sunday morning with just your immediate family.
It reminds me of gastrophysics, the idea from the sources that flavor isn't just something that happens on your tongue.
It's a multisensory illusion.
Actively co-constructed by your brain based on the lighting, the weight of the cutlery, the social dynamics in the room.
And this startup takes that gastrophysics concept into some truly futuristic territory.
They factor in physiological telemetry.
Yes. If users choose to opt in with health wearables like an Apple Watch or an Oura Ring,
Wait, pause. So the platform can actually read the group's collective nervous system state.
it is literally reading the room biologically.
So if I walk into a dinner party after a brutal 60-hour work week, the room knows I'm exhausted.
Precisely that. If the wearable data indicates that the group has high sleep debt or elevated biological stress markers, the synchronization engine will actively intervene.
It won't suggest that the hosts serve a heavy, intense menu.
Right. And it won't suggest blaring high BPM music because it recognizes the group's physiological capacity is completely depleted.
I can't handle it.
They can't. Instead, it will suggest dimming the lights, playing soft acoustic music, and serving a light, comforting, restorative meal.
It dynamically tunes the environment to let the group's nervous system exhale.
It's wild, isn't it?
That is wild. And it pairs that biological data with a conscious, shared intention.
Before the gathering even begins.
Right. The group opens the app and answers one incredibly simple question. What do we want the next 2 hours to do for us?
Do we want to aggressively unwind?
Do we want to celebrate a milestone?
Do we want to have a deep emotional catch-up?
And that stated intention acts as the final guardrail for the recommendation engine.
It is essentially a profoundly ancient way of looking at human connection, just repackaged into a modern digital algorithm.
The sources we reviewed highlight how this perfectly mirrors the Japanese aesthetic concept of ichigo ichi.
Which translates to one time, one meeting.
It's the understanding that perfection is not about repeating the exact same recipe flawlessly 100 times.
Perfection is an unrepeatable alignment with the current moment,
Yes, and there's also a reference to the Hawaiian concept of pono.
which is the alignment of people, place, and moment.
In that tradition, you don't evaluate a meal just by its raw intensity or how expensive the ingredients are. You evaluate it by its fit for the occasion.
A dish is only right if it resonates with the emotional and spiritual state of the people eating it.
Insing Tastes is basically trying to scale that ancient wisdom of pono into a three-sided marketplace.
Let's explore that marketplace because the business model is what actually makes this viable in the real world.
You have three distinct sides interacting here.
First, the guests. They are desperately seeking these meaningful, perfectly aligned social gatherings.
Second, the hosts. They are leveraging the platform's data to run these repeatable gig economy micro-businesses.
And third, the environments.
Because these don't just have to be private living rooms, do they?
Not at all. They can be public parks, or even premium partner restaurants that have empty tables and want to receive these perfectly matched, pre-vetted groups.
But anytime you launch a marketplace that relies on matching people, you run headfirst into the classic cold start problem.
The bane of every platform startup.
Right. If you launch this grand app for curating dinner parties, but nobody has downloaded it yet, you are throwing a party in an empty room.
The algorithm has zero data to work with.
So how do they actually launch this thing without failing immediately?
They get around the cold start problem using a highly localized strategy called the Munich trial.
Okay.
They do not launch the multi-person gathering feature on day one. Instead, they roll out the app offering pure single-player utility.
The grocery receipt tracking.
Exactly.
So they essentially trick you into building the database for them.
It's brilliant.
People download the app just because they want a personal budgeting tool.
They want to track their own ingredient spending and figure out how to avoid long lines at the supermarket using that ecosystem graph.
It's an immediate selfish value proposition.
Exactly. And while thousands of users are happily enjoying that personal utility in a dense, highly walkable city like Munich,
the system is quietly mapping the city's entire sensory architecture.
it is learning the taste overlaps, the ingredient flows, and the behavioral rhythms of the population.
Then they subsidize a few small gatherings behind the scenes to test the waters.
And once the data density hits a critical mass, once they truly understand the overlapping tastes of the city, they flip the switch.
The multi-person gathering engine comes alive, and it already knows exactly what everyone wants.
So what does this all mean?
Why are we spending an entire deep dive talking about a tech startup that curates fancy supper clubs?
This is where the pitch takes a very serious, very profound turn.
Because they aren't just trying to disrupt Yelp or compete with Airbnb.
They are positioning this entire platform as a direct response to one of the most pressing public health crises of our generation.
The global loneliness epidemic.
The public health data on this is staggering. Organizations like the World Health Organization have declared social disconnection a physiological crisis.
With mortality risks comparable to smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day.
Loneliness isn't just a fleeting feeling of sadness. It is a biological threat state.
The biological mechanism behind that is honestly terrifying to read about.
When we experience chronic loneliness, it triggers a constant stress response in the body.
It heightens activity in the amygdala, right? Which is the brain's threat detection center.
It makes us hypersensitive. We are constantly scanning for social rejection.
And at the exact same time, it reduces our prefrontal regulation.
The prefrontal cortex is basically the brain's set of brakes.
It helps us moderate our emotions and react rationally.
So when those brakes wear out from isolation, we literally lose the biological capacity to trust other people.
It creates this vicious, self-fulfilling cycle where the lonelier you get, the harder it is to connect with anyone.
And the economic fallout of that biological cycle is massive,
Workplace disengagement.
which is heavily fueled by this epidemic of isolation and hypervigilance. Gallup estimates it costs the global economy roughly $8.8 trillion annually.
8.8 trillion.
We have a society full of people whose nervous systems are too frayed to collaborate or build meaningful relationships.
When you frame it like that, you realize this isn't just a recipe app.
It isn't a restaurant recommendation tool.
The ultimate value proposition here is the creation of scalable social infrastructure.
They are taking this massive trove of seemingly boring data
Grocery receipts, checkout wait times, wearable sleep tracking.
and using it to actively engineer physical spaces that lower social anxiety.
They are trying to biologically curate environments that reduce cortisol, shut down that hyperactive amygdala, and allow human trust to emerge naturally again.
By utilizing the space framework and the realities of sensory science, they want to reverse that cycle of hypervigilance.
When a room perfectly resonates with a group's collective state,
When the lighting is soft enough, the pacing is relaxed enough,
and the flavor profile perfectly matches what that specific group's nervous system can handle.
people can finally put their defenses down.
It is an incredible journey. We started today talking about the annoying friction of a group chat trying to pick a restaurant.
And the mundane act of scanning a grocery receipt to find cheap basil.
But that simple taste engine solves the notoriously difficult multi-person matching problem.
It empowers a whole new gig economy of passionate hosts.
And by factoring in the space framework, health data, and shared intentions, the platform acts as a tuning fork to create a perfectly synchronized atmospheric chord.
Ultimately, curating that perfect moment over a meal is presented as a scalable weapon against the biological threat of loneliness.
This raises an important question, one that looks way past dinner parties and really hints at the startup's long-term vision.
They want to become a foundational platform, much like Amazon Web Services did for the internet.
If this company successfully builds a multi-person preference engine that can reliably map group physiology and intention,
To lower cortisol and build trust.
what happens when that exact same technology is licensed to city planners and architects?
Imagine a future where entire smart cities, public transit systems, and corporate headquarters aren't just statically zoned for residential or commercial use.
Imagine if the public spaces you walk through every day dynamically adapted their lighting, their soundscapes, and their physical pacing in real time.
To actively regulate the collective nervous system of the population.
That is a staggering thought to leave on, transforming the sensory architecture of our entire world to actively foster human connection and calm.
It changes everything.
It really does. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey today. We covered a massive amount of ground, from the grocery aisle to the biology of trust. Until the next deep dive, stay insanely curious.